Patton Sports Videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on MoPattonSports.com. I want to thank you all for joining us here on our videocast for Thursday, August 27th as we head into the second week of the season. I'm here with the not-so-old coach, Kevin Smith, and we're going to break down a few games here, some of the bigger games here in Middle Tennessee, and we'll talk about some other ones and take a quick look back at last week, real quick, because I'm not sure how much we want to talk about it, but we'll get to that in a minute. Kevin, one of the bigger games, one of the more intriguing games, I think, is CPA has got Knoxville Catholic coming in, and they're playing over at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this game. It's two programs that have a history of winning, have a history of state championships. Obviously, CPA being the defending 3A state champions, and Knoxville Catholic thinks that they have an opportunity to win the 4A this year. And it's going to be a star-studded event. There's going to be a lot of good players on the field. It's kind of a contrasting in styles type of game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing who kind of gets the upper hand early.
You know, most fans, and I'm probably in that number, don't typically pay a lot of attention to the offensive line play, but you may want to take a look at Cade Mays, the big kid for Knoxville Catholic. He's already committed to Tennessee, and his teammate Amari Rogers is one of those skilled guys. I think he projects as a receiver at the next level, but he's committed to Southern Cal, where his dad, T. Martin, is on the staff. Kevin's got a little familiarity with both those guys.
Yeah, and Cade's just a sophomore, a young player, but he's mean on the field, and he's really got some good technique. He really attacks off when the ball is snapped. He's trying to get a pancake every time he's out there. He's fun to watch. And then Amari obviously is another great player. He's the type of kid who can take it to 80 yards to the house anytime he touches the ball. And that's where CPA's got to do a good job today. I look at this game, Mo, and I ask myself, can CPA get the early lead and then be able to control the time of possession with their run game? Or is Catholic going to be able to get the early lead and really dictate the pace by their breakneck speed offensively? And it's going to be an interesting contrasting of styles during this game to see who can get up on the other one and then limit their mistakes and limit their turnovers and see who can control this ball game.
Kind of an intriguing coaching matchup when you think about the two guys involved. Steve Matthews, who played his high school ball down at Tullahoma, coached down at Moore County. I think he was offensive coordinator over at Siegel before he took this job up at Knoxville Catholic. And, of course, Engel Martin, who's done, I think he's 55-4 now over at CPA.
Yeah, I've lost count. It's an unbelievable record.
Yeah, those guys, CPA has just kind of been a team that you can't really count out no matter what the matchup looks like. They just seem to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, Engel's one of those guys that understands how to build a coaching staff. He's done a great job of putting guys around him that are knowledgeable of the game and also great guys. And so they've built that program over there. I believe they've won 34 or 35 straight regular season games. They do a fantastic job, and part of the reason this year, a lot of people thought maybe they'll have a little bit of a step back, is that they're not quite as big as they've been in the past, but they still have good skill players. We've alluded to a couple of guys in Joseph Richard and Zach Weatherly, but they also got a senior class who's won a lot of ball games, and they understand how to win. They understand what the coaching staff's looking for, and they've worked hard to get to where they're at. And so that's why you're seeing CPA continuing to just keep pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward and enjoying success.
Kevin, how much does it help when you, not just the football, but the athletic program as a whole? Baseball has done really well over their last couple of years, obviously basketball with Drew Maddox. When you have the kind of across-the-board success that they've had, what does that do for a team individually?
Well, I think it just helps your school and your community, especially when you start in football. You start your year out, it's the fall, you get to start off with a successful season, and those kids move from football to basketball, and then they're successful in basketball, and then they move to baseball. And so what you get is you get a lot of kids around a lot of great coaches in the building there at CPA, and then you also get an opportunity to take your success from one sport and build on it to the next sport. And it just breeds winning, it breeds confidence, and those kids are confident every time they come out on the field or the court.
Another ball game that we're going to take a look at, and we talked about at least one of these teams last week, Kevin. Louisville Trinity comes to town to take on Brentwood Academy.
Yeah, this is another intriguing matchup, Mo. I think with Brentwood Academy, just going down to Mississippi last week and putting it on Olive Branch, it was a little bit shocking. And the way they did it, rushing the football, with Prince going for over 200 yards and that big offensive line, it's going to be intriguing to see if Trinity is as good as they show versus Innsworth, 45-0, or is BA as good as they show versus Olive Branch? Now we're about to see two teams collide here that both had blowouts last week. And Trinity, again, with a veteran defense, you got to ask yourself, are they prepared, again, to win another state title there in Kentucky? And are they ready to come down here to BA and stop a prolific offense in Brentwood Academy?
They were very prolific. They also got, I think, a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown Brentwood Academy did. So they weren't just doing it on the offensive side of the ball, but they've got so many great athletes. And we've talked about Jeremiah Oatsvall. We talked about Cameron Johnson. Another guy, Cottrell Player, I think, was the one who maybe had a scoop and score for him last week, and he's a guy who's been more of a receiver for him, but they're getting some input from some guys on defense as well.
Yeah, and defensively, that for them to have a shutout in the first half, I believe, and give up 6 points again against an Olive Branch who nationally is known. I mean, they always have great players and a great program, so that was very impressive that BA's defense did that. And then obviously offensively, when you can get up a couple scores, you actually take some pressure off your defense. So again, I look for in this game, Trinity and Brentwood Academy, who can kind of get the early lead, maybe take somebody out of their game or put pressure on the other team. If Brentwood Academy gets up 14-0, now you're putting a lot of pressure on Trinity. They may have to do some things they're not accustomed to doing, and you're putting more pressure on their defense to have to make plays to keep them in the ballgame.
Staying in Division II AA, MBA went down to Alabama, talking about going out of state, and won a game down at Hewitt-Trustful that we may not have necessarily expected because, again, Hewitt-Trustful has done a really good job down there.
When we're looking at Tennessee going out of state, and we didn't get the results we wanted there in Murfreesboro, but we had an NBA go down and win at Alabama. We had a CPA go down and win in Georgia. So we were represented well, and a BA going to Mississippi. But it was the way they did it. They did a really good job defensively, holding Trustful down, I think, to 16 points. And then obviously giving it to Ty Chandler, who's a special back. He's a special high school back. And then being the defending AA champions, again, it's a group of kids who knows how to win. They have enough returners coming back that we continue to talk about them. They're going to be right there in the hunt with the Brentwood Academies and the McCaulleys of the world for another run at a state championship.
This week they've got Pearl Cone coming to their place as they get back home. Pearl Cone had a tough one last week over at Hillsborough.
Yeah, and I hope this could be a great matchup. We've seen them, last year I believe it was 55-52 or something crazy where both teams just exploded offensively. The key for Pearl Cone, we got to get away from all the turnovers and the penalties. If they can do that, they got a great opportunity in this game because they have playmakers. And when you have playmakers, you always have a chance. But I do feel like that NBA is going to be able to run the ball against Pearl Cone, and if NBA can limit Pearl Cone's possessions, it's hard for those athletes and those skill players to get the football if they're sitting on the sidelines. So it'll be an interesting matchup.
Pearl Cone ran it well against Hillsborough. Kewan Vaughn had 170 yards and a touchdown. I don't think their passing game was quite where they'd have liked for it to be. I think Jimmy Farrell completed like 10 or 11 balls. Rontavious Groves had 3 catches for 31 yards. They need more out of both those guys.
Yeah, and Hillsborough did a great job of pressuring the quarterback. So, again, can NBA do that as well? Can NBA bring enough pressure but also drop 8, to give themselves an opportunity to keep the wide receivers in front of them? Or are they going to attack Jimmy and make him have to throw it with pressure? So it's another game where it's going to be an interesting matchup and seeing who can get the other hand. And this could be a low-scoring game, or this is one of those games that could really get going and have a lot of firepower.
And I think Marty Uverard really likes his linebacker core when you talk about dropping out or bringing pressure and deciding what to do when.
Hey, listen, the NBA coach staff's done a great job. Again, when you win a state championship in that league, Division II AA, you're doing a great job. So Marty and his crew are doing an unbelievable job there at NBA, and they're going to do a great job Friday night preparing and being prepared for Pearl Cone. Mo Patton Sports Videocast is brought to you by Snap Laces. Snap Laces' elite lacing system was designed for world-class athletes. They come in hundreds of color combinations so you can perform well and look great at the same time. Buy a set online today by clicking through the top image on Mo Patton Sports. The law practice of Allen D. Hall, PLC, is grounded in providing exceptional legal services with the utmost trust and integrity. Legal services Allen provides include employment law, confidential investigations, general business law, risk management, and regulatory policy interpretation and drafting. Ultimately, if you need consulting or solutions, Allen D. Hall needs to be your choice. I2 Agency was started with one primary focus in mind: helping people. As a multi-line insurance agency, we do that in a variety of ways with a full portfolio of products. Whether it's life, health, dental, Medicare, annuities, or home and auto insurance, we design solutions that will meet your individual needs.
Kevin, we talked a little bit about Hillsborough and their win over Pearl Cone last week. This week they've got another big one. They've got Oakland coming in.
Yeah, I mean, Hillsborough, you talk about a schedule that doesn't get any easier, starting out with Pearl Cone at Vanderbilt and then turn around and playing Oakland. You know, Oakland had Hoover, and while they didn't do a great job offensively, they did a really, really great job defensively. And so I'm anxious to see Oakland's defense versus the explosive power of Hillsborough's offense. I mean, Hillsborough's got some players that can really make some plays. And they did that against Pearl Cone. They showed that in the second half. And then, you know, Hillsborough at the same token, they got a defensive line and a front seven they're really excited about. So I'm anxious to see if Hillsborough can sit in there and read their keys with their eyes and make sure that they're keeping their eyes out of the backfield against this wing T type of offense and can put together a great defensive game plan.
I don't know if Oakland's struggling to get the offense installed or if they're struggling with it or what exactly it is, but you would have expected them to score more than 6 against Hoover. But as you said, Oakland defensively did a pretty good job against what we believe to be a pretty explosive Hoover team. And Hillsborough made some plays in the second half. I think we kind of saw the quarterback, Dalen Murphy, kind of grow up a little over the course of the evening. Hit a couple of big plays in the fourth quarter to rally them for the 41-28 win.
Yeah, and we'll go back to Oakland. You know, they're bringing in a new coaching staff. Again, it's going to take a little time to get the offense going, clicking the way that they wanted to. And let's give Hoover credit. I mean, we're talking about a great football team with a lot of great players, so they had a little something to do with Oakland not being successful offensively. But going back to Friday night, I can see Oakland's team getting going here offensively. Hillsborough, they have a tough challenge in front of them of not running upfield, of making sure their eyes are where they're supposed to be. So, I mean, they're going to have to be sound defensively to stop Oakland.
Jacoby Stevens, you got to feel like is going to be more involved this week.
Yeah, and I think he had a little bit of a sprained ankle there that he was trying to get right. So we'll see more of Jacoby, and we want to see more of Jacoby. I mean, this is one of the best players in the state of Tennessee, so I think everybody wants to see as much of Jacoby as they can. And knowing that young man, he wants to be out there. I mean, he wants to be contributing. He wants to make every tackle. He wants to make every touchdown he possibly can. So I hope to see him back in a larger role this week.
Centennial Independence, big 5A game. Both those teams won pretty convincingly last week. Centennial shut down Franklin 20-0 at home. Independence came here to Brentwood and won a 47-17 game. How do you see that thing shaping up?
Yeah, this is a classic offense-defense game. When you're talking about Centennial shutting Franklin out, doing a great job defensively, and you're talking about the offensive explosion that Independence had and the star power they have on defense, Mo, I really think it's going to come down to, can Centennial win the outside matchups? And it really goes both ways. Can Independence stop the blitz of Centennial and win on the outside with their receivers versus Centennial's DBs? Can Centennial play man coverage? And can they blitz the quarterback and win those outside matchups? And I think that's going to be a key in this ball game, because if Centennial can't throw it effectively, they're going to have to run the ball, and they're going to have to be effective running the ball, and they're going to have to mix in some play action pass. And if they can't do that, Independence is going to have way too many possessions to get their stars out there on offense.
And you mentioned Centennial's blitz package. You don't really get the feeling that Centennial can get there in their base, do you?
No, I don't, and no offense to those guys, because I thought they played a great defensive game. A couple of guys that we mentioned in the podcast that we thought really had great games, but I think you're going to have to blitz Andrew. And if you don't blitz Andrew, then you're going to have to drop in some zone coverage, maybe drop 7, 8, and make him dink and dunk around the field. But the scary part about that is a quarterback at his level, at his how good he is, you can't let him sit back there and just pick you apart, or it's going to be a long night. So Centennial is going to have to be able to effectively run the ball and mix in some play-action pass, or it's going to be a long night in the second half.
And it seems like he's kind of added running to his repertoire as well.
Yeah, he's a great player. I mean, again, another guy that we've thought is a little bit under-recruited. Maybe it's a little bit with the size factor. You know, everybody wants the 6'4", 6'5" quarterback, but a great high school football player, a guy that's going to have an opportunity to go to the next level and play, and he does a great job. And it's fun to watch. You know, a kid that if you can get out on a Friday night, you need to go watch Andrew Bunch and Nate Johnson. They got a couple other kids that are really special players, so Independence is a fun team to watch.
BGA had a big win, kind of took us a little by surprise the way they handled Good Pasture at their place. This week they go over to Friendship Christian.
Yeah, and Friendship Christian was a little bit of a surprise. We didn't know that Davidson Academy could hang in there the way they did. Now, some of that could have been due to a power outage that kept both teams off the field for over an hour. But, Friendship's the type of team. they can hold the ball on you the entire an entire quarter, and you can't get your good players on the field. He had a 21-play drive to wipe out the entire fourth quarter against Davidson Academy Friday night. And that's the key for them. They need to run it right at BGA and run it and run it and run it some more. And BGA needs to be able to do some slanting up front, being able to stop Friendship's run game on first and second down and put Friendship in third and longs and make Friendship throw the ball.
You know, you talk about a 21-play drive. I mean, what kind of discipline at the high school level does it take to be able to pull that off?
Yeah, and you're talking about, there's not a turnover, there's not a false start, there's no holding penalties. You're going to have to go for it on fourth down a couple of times and something like that. Man, that's hard to do. I mean, we're talking about that's hard to do at the college or pro level, much less the high school level. But it is something Friendship's been known to do. They're huge up front. They got some good skill behind them. And for BGA, we love Bethard. And if he can't get on the field to show his athletic ability and his skill at the quarterback position for BGA, well, then it doesn't matter what BGA can do offensively if they can't get on the field. So BJ's defense has got to do a good job on first and second down because we want to see Clay out there throwing the ball around a little bit. And I think it's another contrasting styles matchup that we have this week around the Middle Tennessee area here. It's gonna be determined on who can dictate the pace.
You talked about Clay Bethard, the reigning Mr. Football in Division 2A. It's 12 of 17 for 319, 4 touchdowns. Marcus Cawthorn, 163 yards on 5 catches, 2 touchdowns. So they can be explosive when they've got the ball. When they've got the ball being the key.
Let's see if they can get a little bit of a run game, protect Clay. Obviously Clay is really good at when the play breaks down of getting outside the pocket and finding guys deep. But I don't think they want him to do that every play. So we hope that BJ can run it just a little bit to keep Friendship honest and make this a really close ball game. Because really, Mo, this is an early season matchup. Both teams think they have a chance to win a state championship in Division II Single A. So this is a great measuring stick for both squads early in the year.
Could be the first of 2 meetings.
It could be, absolutely.
Any other games catch your eye?
Brentwood, Ravenwood. I think Brentwood's obviously young. I think they have 52, 53 sophomores, somewhere in that range. And Ravenwood has 42 seniors, I believe, Mo. So you can see kind of the contrast there in programs right now. Ron does a great job. He's proven that he can win, especially here at Brentwood. Will's done an unbelievable job at Ravenwood. So don't want to say how this matchup's going to go quite yet here on Friday night, but it is something where Ravenwood's a little bit more ahead in their program right now. But look for Brentwood. It's a rivalry game, so you never know what's going to happen. But look for Brentwood to grow as the year continues to go on and get better and better, and then their program is going to be just fine.
You might have known it. I didn't realize Ravenwood was going to be as good as they looked last Thursday against Siegel. Obviously, Will Hester is kind of the mad scientist offensively, and he managed to do some things and put some points up, wound up beating Siegel 47-27. Did you see that coming at all?
Well, no, I didn't see him blowing Siegel out. I thought they would win the game, and we alluded to it in one of our podcasts that we really thought Ravenwood was not being talked about being the 6A runner-up in 2014, but man, they do a good job of mixing their players in different positions on the field and creating matchup problems. And then when we just said they had 42 seniors, they got some depth where they can roll some guys in and out so that cramping doesn't bother them as much as some of our smaller schools that we've been speaking about.
At National Playmakers Academy, developing NPA athletes comes in threes. NPA develops its student athletes' academic, social, and football-specific skills. Next, NPA develops them for better exposure today, recruitment tomorrow, and college education through scholarships for the rest of their lives. We are proud of the outstanding athletes we have developed. We are more proud of the college graduates we have prepared. Work with National Playmakers Academy for developing gifted athletes into productive citizens. The law practice of Allen D. Hall, PLC, is grounded in providing exceptional legal services with the utmost trust and integrity. Legal services Allen provides include employment law, confidential investigations, general business law, risk management, and regulatory policy interpretation and drafting. Ultimately, if you need consulting solutions, Allen D. Hall needs to be your choice. I2, Integrity Insurance. I2 Agency was started with one primary focus in mind, helping people. As a multi-line insurance agency, we do that in a variety of ways with a full portfolio of products, whether it's life, health, dental, Medicare, annuities, or home and auto insurance, we design solutions that will meet your individual needs. John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors Patton Sports videocasts. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook. John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building. Kevin, another game we're kind of keeping an eye on that wasn't among our featured 6 games, so to speak, but Franklin Road Academy and Columbia Academy in a big Division 2A game early in the year.
Yeah, so Franklin Road Academy is going to travel down to Columbia to a team that feels like they have a great chance to win a state championship in 1A. They feel like they kind of let it slip away from them last year against Nashville Christian. They're looking to come out with a senior-laden team and really scheduled Franklin Road Academy, according to Coach Lansdale, to see where they're at, to see where their program's going to be, to see if they're ready to take that next step. And Franklin Road Academy is going down there this weekend after a huge win against Fayetteville, put up 48 points. I believe it was 28-0 at halftime or in the first quarter, excuse me. So FRA's got some explosive players. They got some skill that they can explode at any time, that can score from anywhere. So it's going to be interesting to see. Columbia Academy runs a little bit of a wing tee. They call it the sling tee. So they like to throw it around a little bit out of the wing tee. And they got an awesome receiver down there that a lot of people don't know about. So this could get high scoring because both teams don't have a whole lot of depth, so some guys could go down to cramping. This could be a really interesting matchup.
That receiver you're talking about was also a nominee for Mr. Football Kicker, I think. Thomas, and I can't think of his last name.
Yeah, actually Thomas is a guy who plays everywhere else. I mean, he's actually I think he's actually the running back, the strong safety, and the kicker. And like you said, he was a Mr. Football finalist at kicker. So they've got some guys that obviously play both ways, just like FRA. So I'm really interested to see how this turns out because FRA wants to have obviously a big win under their belt to start the season as well before they get into their Division II single-A schedule.
Spence Jones is getting a lot of traction at quarterback, isn't he?
Yeah, he did a great job last year, and then he's just moving forward this year. But what a lot of people don't know is he didn't come off the field. I mean, we're talking about a guy who played every snap at safety last year, plays on all special teams. So a guy who he wants to win. He works his butt off. He's a tireless worker and a great player. I mean, a guy who can dunk a basketball, and I always like guys who can dunk basketballs to be with some of my skill players. So yeah, look for Spence to have a big year and a big game Friday night.
Page got a win last week against a visiting Fairview team that we didn't really see coming. And one of the fans at the game was Scott Tillman, the coach at Lipscomb Academy. I think he was out there doing a little scouting, trying to get ready for this matchup tomorrow night.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week, that we thought Fairview was a little bit bigger and could push Page around. Page, they feel like they have one of the best quarterbacks in the mid-state, and he obviously proved that the other night. They feel like they have some great receivers, and they feel like they have a great running back. Felt they were a little bit young in the offensive line and wanted to see how they perform. The flip side is Lipscomb is huge. They got a veteran offensive line. They're a massive team. They got a couple of guys, a William Phillips, who is an extremely fast player that they can hand the football to. So this is going to be, again, we kind of been talking this week in our matchups of contrasting styles. Lipscomb's going to be in the wing tee trying to run it down their throats. On the flip side, Page is going to be in a spread trying to throw it all over the field. So who can dictate what they want to do offensively in this game is going to decide who wins it.
You know, we've alluded to some of our discussion from last week, and we picked a few games. We tried to pick the results from our 6 key games from last week, and one of us did a little bit better than the other one. We'll leave it at that. But neither of us saw that Page-Fairview game coming. Page knocks Fairview off 38-7. We had both expected Fairview to win that one. I was at that game. Fairview looked a little flat. Yeah,
it was very shocking, just flat out. Not saying Page couldn't win the game, but just how the score ended. And the dominance that Page did have. So kudos to Page. They did a great job. Let's see if Fairview can return to the practice field this week and turn things back around. It's early in the season, so we don't want to put anybody at the bottom yet. But Fairview definitely has to get their mind going again and get back on the right train.
We both had Centennial beating Franklin. Looked like we knew what we were talking about there.
Yeah, again, a little shocking that they got shut out, but we also knew that Franklin was young and they showed their youth. Penalties, turnovers, so not a huge shock there, but Centennial was dominant defensively.
We also had Hillsborough beating Pearl Cone.
Yeah, and there for a while, I was starting to get a little worried about that pick. Pearl Cone came out really fast and was playing well. But it kind of showed the depth of Hillsboro. They kind of wore Pearl Cone down. So glad we went with Hillsboro there.
Over in Murfreesboro, the doubleheader over there, we both took the enemy teams.
Yeah, a little disappointing that both went 0 for 2. If that game would have been played last year, I think you would have seen a different outcome. Both teams are kind of reloading with players. And again, Oakland and Blackman aren't going anywhere. Look for them to have great seasons. They're too talented, so they're not out of the wood. They're not out of the hunt.
And the one game that we differed on,
Innsworth Trinity. We knew Innsworth was young. You know, we really knew that. Shocking from the score, absolutely. I was actually at Innsworth in 2010 coaching. We started 0-2. That coaching staff will do a great job. They didn't panic then. They're not going to panic now. They know they're young. They're going to keep going to the drawing board. They're going to keep practicing. Innsworth will be in the hunt at the end of the year. And so this game is just another game on their schedule. That coaching staff will get them on the right page.
Okay. Let's take a shot at these 6 games this week. CPA Knoxville Catholic.
Yeah, I actually have Knoxville Catholic ending the regular season streak of CPA. I just believe that CPA is going to be able to, that Catholic is going to be able to kind of dictate their will on CPA this week, but it's going to be a close one.
I'm taking CPA. I just like the way they seem to find a way to get it done, and after what they did up in Cookeville last year against Alcoa, I think I'm just going to ride with them until otherwise. So
it's hard to bet against them.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, again, they've won 34 straight regular season games. The defending state champs. I think Catholic has something to prove, and they're coming down here to Nashville to prove it.
Okay. Centennial Independence.
I'm going with Independence here. I was at the Franklin Centennial game last week. They struggled to be consistent running the ball. Actually had a couple of lucky passes that Franklin's DBs were in position and dropped them. And Independence's DBs, they're not going to drop them. And Independence is going to be able to score. So I like Independence in this ball game to pull away in the second half. I think it's going to be nip and tuck in the first half, and then I see Independence kind of pulling away in the second half.
Kevin, I think I'm going to go with Independence in that matchup as well. Like you said, the firepower that they've got, I'm just not sure that Centennial can get them slowed down. We've talked about Trinity, obviously. How about that Trinity-Brentwood Academy game?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. If you're in town and you want to go to a game, if you're not going down to Vanderbilt, it's going to be at BA. I'm going to go with BA. I love their talent. I think it's a long road trip for the Kentucky team to get down here. I just think BA is going to have too much offensive firepower for Trinity.
I agree with you. I like Oatsvall at quarterback, and I like the pieces that he's got around him. Prince Mamadou, they can slow the game down if they decide they want to do that. Cameron Johnson, if they want to go up top. I like the matchups there. I like Brentwood Academy in that one. NBA Pearl Cone.
I'm going to go with NBA. I just think that Ty Chandler can control the game. They can control the game with their rushing attack, and I think they're going to do a great job defensively. I think they learned from the game last year versus Pearl Cone, and I just don't know if Pearl, after playing Hillsboro last week, this is 2 in a row tough matchups for them. I don't know if they have enough depth to go against both those teams 2 weeks in a row.
Especially with the short week. How much of a factor is that?
You know, Bo, really depends on kind of the weather and how much depth you do have. I think some of the larger schools, it's not as big of a deal. But for some of our smaller schools, a Pearl that's playing guys both ways a lot, it can be a factor to get them rest and make sure their legs are fresh for the game. So that's another reason why I'm kind of going with NBA here.
Pearl Cone's got to iron out some things, both taking care of the football and with penalties. I like NBA in this one, but I like it close. I don't think it'll be the explosive game that last year was in this matchup, but I think it'll be a close ball game. I like the Big Red pulling it out.
John Mayer Builders proudly sponsors Mo Patton Sports Videocast. With over 1,500 homes built in Middle Tennessee, John Mayer Builders knows the importance of families and communities. They have numerous business awards to their credit, proving that John Mayer Builders is built to win. Like them on Facebook, John Mayer Builders, our reputation is building.
That's going to do it for another video cast here with Mo Patton Sports. For Kevin Smith, I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see you at the ball game.